All right, everybody, welcome back to Gettin Outdoors Radio Network. We are live at the Alabama Wildlife Federation headquarters in Lanark in Millbrook, Alabama. Today's show is sponsored by Alabama Power Company and the Alabama Wildlife Federation. I want to thank Freddie Padita. He will be on. Right now, Tim, we got your Claude Jenkins. He is the senior biologist for Alabama Wildlife Federation. He's got a special program he's working on. Tim, I'm going to kind of let you introduce Claude and tell us about what's going on with this program.
Thank you for that, Big Daddy. In 1999, AWF hired its first biologist, and that was Claude. And today we have 3 biologists, but Claude actually started our Land Stewardship Assistance Program. We've assisted probably a little over 1,000 landowners and provided management recommendations on between 500,000 and 750,000 acres here in Alabama since Claude started that program. Claude, like me, is just a big fan of the natural resources in the Black Belt, the uniqueness of those resources, the things that you can do with them. And we were very fortunate probably 6 or 7 years ago to put forward a proposal to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and Southern Company for native warm season grass education and technical assistance. And Claude has really run with that program. I'm certainly biased, but I think Claude is the best Black Belt Prairie restoration, preservation technical biologist that you'll find. And here lately, his peers elected him to, Claude, I can't remember if it's the chair or co-chair of the Black Belt Prairie Restoration Initiative, which actually spans Alabama and Mississippi. So it's just been a real privilege to have Claude on staff, and the work he does in the Black Belt and with the Prairie in particular is really unique and significant.
Tell us about it, Claude. Thank you for being here, by the way, too.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Well, the Black Belt Prairie has been largely overlooked from a conservation standpoint. We have already lost most of our prairies to other land uses, such as row crop agriculture, cattle production, hay production, things like that. And rightly so. Those prairie lands are highly productive lands for agriculture, and we all have to eat, right? So, So that's good, but those lands are pretty much lost forever. But there's still a lot of opportunities out there for restoring prairies. We've got a lot of challenges to deal with: invasive species, fire exclusion, woody invasion, a lack of ecological knowledge, which is probably the biggest hurdle to overcome. A lot of land users and landowners in the prairie really don't know what to do with those soils. They're either too wet or too dry, and some of the more alkaline soils can't grow pine trees. So many landowners, believe it or not, are at a loss as to what to do with prairies. But there's still a lot of opportunity for prairie restoration, and so with the Native Grassland Restoration Project that Tim mentioned earlier, that's partially funded by Alabama Power and Southern Company. We're working very closely with landowners in the Black Belt to restore, those prairies that are capable of being restored.
Now, if a landowner out there is listening this morning and wants to get you and get involved with this, how do they do that?
Well, they can simply contact me at AWF and request technical assistance, and I will be more than happy to schedule a meeting with them that's convenient for them to look at their property and help them get where they want to be.
Well, I tell you what, it's interesting now. I know is that what you primarily specialize in, the prairie, or do you do other type of biologist stuff too?
No, I do other things, but the AWF's 3 biologists that Tim mentioned earlier, we've divided the state into 3 regions: North region, Central region, and South region. Kyle Marable is responsible for the North region, I'm responsible for the central region, and Drew Arnold
Yeah.
is responsible for working with landowners in what we call the south region. Now, if you look at our central region, it encompasses the entire, well, almost the entire Black Belt Prairie physiographic region. So you could imagine how much of my time is spent working with landowners who own Black Belt Prairie lands.
Well, now, if you define the Black Belt the way Pam Swanham defines it, it's just about the whole state of Alabama.
You got to seize your opportunities, big guy. You got to seize your opportunities.
I had her on the show last week, and I tell you, I'm crazy about Pam. I'm just picking on her. But the Black Belt is a very unique area and a very unique part of the state, Claude, and I know it's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge. There's a lot of challenges to restoring prairies. Like I said, exotic species, fire exclusion, woody invasion, soil erosion. A lot of our prairie sites have a history of soil erosion that certainly can present some significant challenge to restoring those sites. But the lack of ecological knowledge may be the biggest hurdle that I've observed working with landowners in the prairie. And but certainly there's a lot of potentials. Now, the Black Belt compared to other ecosystems, like say the longleaf pine ecosystem, is relatively small, and so it doesn't get quite as much attention as say the longleaf, and rightly so, because the longleaf ecosystem extends, partially, 9 states throughout the southeast, whereas the Black Belt Prairie, essentially only 2, a little bit of Tennessee, and theoretically some parts of Georgia, but basically 2 states, that's Mississippi and Alabama.
Talking about the prairie, Tim, it's a perfect time to mention one of your sponsors last night, Ralph and Catherine Martin. He actually lives in Prairie, Alabama, so I guess he would live in the heart of this program right here.
That's probably why we got him to be a sponsor. No, little Ralph has been a big supporter of the Wildlife Federation.
He really
his
has.
wife Catherine for a long time, and we're just proud to have their support. And actually, he sponsored the head table in honor of Governor Ivey.
Oh, well, bless his heart. Well, Wilcox County was represented good last night. Hey, Claude, anything else you want to say? We're kind of limited with time, but I really do appreciate you being here, getting up and being here this morning. It sounds like an interesting program, and I will, when Marla, somebody puts something about it on Facebook, I'll forward it on my Facebook page also, Tim, where anybody interested can hook up with y'all.
That'd be great. And I'd just say this to close on this topic. If you own prairie, whether your primary interest and motivations for land management were to be game or non-game, deer, turkey, pollinators, this, that, and the other, that's the thing about prairie. It has just multiple benefits for all of those different types of species, and is highly, highly productive when you get it in the right condition. And that's really what we've had the opportunity, thanks to that grant, thanks to Claude's personal interest in it, is to focus on that and help landowners maximize what they can get out of prairie, while at the same time perpetuating a real unique and key ecological habitat.
Well, Alabama Wildlife Federation, that's why everybody needs to be a member of it. Hey, Chuck, pull that microphone. I got one more question before I let you go. Last night, I had a conversation with Agricultural Commissioner John McMillan. Last time he was on the Gettin Outdoors show, he said that he would not only help fund, but he would make sure that there was a certified scale at every conservation district office in Alabama in case somebody caught a state record fish. And he said, me and you need to work on that before he gets out of there.
All right, I'll add that to my list of other things to do. Apparently the commissioner going out is developing quite a list, because he called me yesterday and looking at getting a bunch of hog traps around the state, and so
I think he's got some money he needs to spend.
I think so. So the commissioner has got quite a few projects that apparently I have been solicited to help with. So that's another one.
Well, that's another one. But I just remember when somebody caught I think it was a carp or something, and we needed to get it weighed officially, and the only place we could go was a grocery store or something. So the way they have these digital scales now, you can make them portable, but the thing we need is to have them certified. And that's what Commissioner McMillan said he would be glad to help us with.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, will you being the chair, and I guess me being the co-chair of that committee, I guess we'll get it taken care of.
We got to get it done.
Yep.
We got to get it done. And I appreciate you and Sid being here today too. And
Absolutely.
I do look forward. I'm going to stay up all night Thursday night just so I can get your reaction to the alligator hunt.
Well, I hope you don't have to stay up all night to get my reaction. We are pulling for being the first boat back to the landing with an alligator.
It don't always work that way though.
Oh, I know, but yeah, we'll be there.
Claude, thank you once again for being here. Thanks for your good work you do, and I look forward. Maybe one day you can come to the studio and we spend a lot more time talking about this.
Yeah, that sounds good. And thanks again for having me on.
Claude Jenkins, Alabama Wildlife Federation Senior Biologist, thank you so much. We're going to take a break, y'all. We'll be back in a minute.
Hey, Big Daddy, Claude said the most unique thing he's seen in the black belt prairie was a black panther.
Yeah. Come on, let me ask you that, Claude. Let's sit here real quick. Let's do this on One of the questions that I wanted to ask Claude a while ago, and we're on break now, is what is the most unique piece of property or the unique thing you've seen in the black belt? Not a black panther or a long-tailed cat.
Well, that's a very good question, and one it would be somewhat difficult to answer because there are several properties that come to mind, Big Daddy, that are very, very unique that we're working on. Probably most calls that we get from landowners who own prairie land, they have an interest in managing their property for game species, primarily white-tailed deer. And like I mentioned earlier, these prairies, they're often overlooked in land management. Landowners will manage their pine forests. They understand the value of managing that for game species, but they tend to overlook their prairies. But the most recent project was in Dallas County, where after a few visits with this landowner, he would never discuss his prairie, and it was obviously been overlooked for years. And so we had discussed managing those prairies or restoring those prairies, and so he really didn't quite understood the value of those prairies, but he trusted the technical assistance that he received from AWF. So he went ahead and went forward in restoring those prairies like we recommended, and now he's every time he drives by or walks through those prairies, he jumps up deer all the time, and so now the prairie has become his favorite habitat type now. So
that's a good story. That's a good story.
And I will share this one other. It's a non-game story. Landowner, kind of like the previous landowner I talked about. I helped him restore some of his prairies, and he's a hunter. He likes to hunt deer and turkeys on his place, but he also values non-game wildlife, primarily pollinators, and or more specifically butterflies. And so we would ride through his prairies, and every butterfly that flew by.
Is that in Dallas County?
This one is over in Greene County.
Okay.
And he would say, "Is that a monarch?" And I said, "No, that's not a monarch." And I would tell him what species it is. And we did that. It seemed like 100 different times. And finally, I saw a monarch butterfly, and I pointed it out to him. He got so excited, and he didn't know what to do with himself. And he wanted a picture, but he didn't have his camera with him. So I chased that monarch butterfly all over that prairie just to get a picture for him.
All right, thank you, man. We got to go. I got to get Freddie, you and Doug. Come on, we're gonna get. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. That's good stuff.